Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey, have you grabbed your free Self-Love and Sweat monthly calendar yet? This calendar is so amazing. It comes right in your inbox every single month to help you have a little nugget of wisdom, a sweaty workout, a mindset activity, just a little something to help keep you focused and motivated and keep that momentum towards your goals. So every day when you get this calendar, you'll see a link that you can click that will lead to a podcast episode or a workout or something that will be very powerful and quick to read. And then you'll also see on the top left corner of every single day, there's a little checkbox in the calendar. And what that is that's for your one thing. You can choose one thing every month, or it can be the same, something that you want to implement, and make this something that you can easily implement, like daily meditation or getting a certain amount of steps or water, for example, and staying hydrated, and even taking your supplements. This can be something if you want to get more regular doing a particular habit and routine, you can choose what that checkbox means. So if you want your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly calendar delivered right to your inbox every month on the first of the month, go to lifelikeLondon.com/calendar, fill out the form really quickly, and you will have your calendar in your inbox within a few short minutes. That's lifelikeLondon, lifelikeLondon.com/calendar. Go get yours for free and enjoy this episode. Happy today. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. If you're watching the video, I'm like looking down at this book that totally changed my life and is kind of what I was thinking about in regards to this podcast episode and kind of what I wanted to share and talk about. But today we're going to talk about reaching your goals with clarity. And the book that I'm looking down at and that I guess I'm holding up now, but that I'm using for this episode and just reflecting on especially moments in my life that I want to share with you as well, where this book changed my life and where I was and where I'm at now, and just how cool that evolution and process can be. So the book is called High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. This book came out, I don't even know when this book came out, to be honest. I didn't look it up before I started this episode, but years ago, let's see, 2017. Okay. And I got the book like on pre-order, got the book right when it came out and started reading it immediately. So in 2017, I started reading this book called High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. And this is a book that Brendan wrote and did extensive research on in hundreds of different countries, millions of data points, looking at the key habits of high performers. And high performers are people that are successful over the long term and have positive relationships and an overall happy life. And so this was really powerful for me because I had seen people who were really successful, but then didn't have positive relationships and didn't treat people with kindness and respect and have that quality, right, over the quantity of abundance. And so when I started reading this book, it just was like so amazing. And in fact, when I started reading it, it was during a time in my life when I worked for a company in Austria called Runtastic, and we were doing this really big photo shoot. And we called it the Big Shoot because it was just a big time where we were shooting, I think, in 3 different countries in a week. And we finally had started growth and momentum in this company. We weren't a startup anymore. We got to do all these really cool photo shoots and go to all these different countries. So during that time, I started a growth and change process in my life, and I started reading this book. And so when I was reading this book and going through it, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And there were just so many moments that just resonated with me. And it was actually the book that I read that inspired me, catapulted me into leaving my job at Runtastic in a point where actually everything was all good and great. It was just time. And it inspired me to go after my goals and dreams of working online, starting a podcast, doing my online business, coaching, all of those types of things. And, so it was definitely a book that changed my life. It was on my top 5 favorite books that I shared on, I think it was International Book Day on Instagram. I made this little reel, and it was definitely one of them. So in this book, there's all these key habits of high performers. Now you can go in the book and read all of them, but today I specifically want to talk about the first one. And that's what has been very, helpful, monumental, even in me reaching my goals. And just like this one in particular, just speaks to me a lot in what it takes to manage a lot of different things in businesses and just a lot of what I do. This first one for me is just so powerful. And I was texting with a friend of mine before this. I was like, I need to go home. I need to reset my brain. I need to focus on this, 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 and this. And he was like, yeah, I do that regularly too. And I'm like, yeah, I just need like a filter and a filter change there. So the number one habit of high performers in this book, and what I want to talk about today, is clarity. Continuously seeking clarity. The world's highest performers, the number one habit that they had was continuous check-ins, right? Continuous check-ins with self for clarity, and just coming back to the drawing board. And I think clarity comes in a lot of different ways when it comes to reaching our goals in life and in business and in all the things. And so when I was driving the other day, I was thinking about this episode and this topic. And I was thinking about the areas that I feel very clear in, and then some of the areas that feel a little bit cluttered. And I know that, for those of you listening, hopefully you felt both, right? That clarity, and then also sometimes that clutter where we just need to really, come back to the drawing board, revisit things, ask ourselves questions, get inquisitive, get curious, and get clear, right? So I wrote some bullet points here. And the first one, when I think about clarity, is, and this is totally based on like all the mistakes I've made and all the things, but is setting a goal and then sitting with it, right? I think sometimes we can set a goal and then share it and post it on social media and just go after something, or say we're going to do something, and just immediately the next domino knocks down into doing the tasks and making it happen and taking action, which I think is so great. Messy action and just doing the thing is so freaking great, right? But you'll know when it's time to set a goal and sit with it when you find yourself continuously setting them and then not doing what it takes to get there, right? So it's nice to be like, okay, wait. Okay. Do is this goal like what I want? Let me write it down. Okay. Can I reword it? Like how, what does it mean? What does it feel like? Right. And the second tip that we'll talk about has to do with core values, but being able to set a goal and sit with it and then consult your core values on it and be like, okay, is this in alignment with who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world? And so the first one is just that willingness to set a goal and then sit with it, get clear with it, and maybe share it with some people that are close to you, but like not with the world, not make these big declarative like statements, if that makes sense. These big, bold, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go after this. I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to da, 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 da. It's like set the goal and then chill and sit with it and see what happens. I can think of moments where that's been very helpful, but then also not. Like in gaining momentum in online business and showing up on social media and doing a lot of the things and setting goals and just going after it and da 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 and just pursuing it fast, I think was helpful. But then at a point where, I was like able to choose and pick and just get clear on those things. Setting goals became even more intentional and even more something to sit with, because then when you're pursuing it day after day, you want to, make sure that those actions are leading you towards where you want to go. So setting a goal and sitting with it, getting clear on it, very helpful. The second one I mentioned is that continuous seeking of clarity of who you want to be and how you want to show up and your core values. Am I showing up in alignment with who I want to be and my values? Asking yourself that, right? In the book, High Performance Habits, there's a spot that it says on page 63, there's a lot of questions that you can ask yourself to get even more clear. And it says on page 63, in almost every basic question of who they were or what they wanted, the highest performers had a great ability to focus on the future and divine how they would achieve excellence. They didn't just know who they were. Indeed, they rarely focused on their present personality or preferences. Instead, they consistently thought about who they wanted to be and how to become that. So I love that part, because that's the core values of who do I want to be and what is that person doing. I coach on this in my Voice of Impact seminar. I coach on this with all my one-on-one clients. Who do you want to be and what does that look like? So we set core values and then we do what I call putting meat on the bones, right? We define the values, but also get very clear and specific on what does it look like when you are showing up as that value? What does it look like when you're not showing up as that value, right? How can you spot the not? And then how do you know when it's time to set a boundary? How do you know when you need to protect that value, whether it's a family member, a friend, just a situation? How do you maneuver and set boundaries in order to protect who you want to be? So in the core value structure, of course, that's going to give you even more clarity on who you want to be. But then going back to the drawing board and consulting your core values and getting clear on if you're actually being even more of that, adding more meat on the bones, right? As you go out and live and be who you want to be, you'll get more evidence of like, oh, okay, this is what it looks like to be honest and trustworthy in my life with the people that I'm around. This is what it doesn't look like. Oh shit, I had to set a boundary, surrounding this core value. So I want to add that as another, important factor to this value and how I protect it and what that looks like. So clarity within the core value in general, like within doing core values, and then going back and getting even more clear within your core values, right? So that one's really special and important to do regularly. Clarity with counsel. Number 3, seeking counsel. I think that's so helpful to get perspective. It's hard to see the water when you're the fish, right? It's hard to know what you don't know or see what you don't see. And so whether that's asking someone for their perspective that you trust, I have a coach that I meet with that asks me such great questions. And every single Monday we meet and I just kind of share and I just gain perspective, right? Gain counsel. And, there's moments where I'll reach out to people within, who I work with and the businesses that I run. And I'll be like, hey, I want to go through like this spreadsheet and look through, or I have, these people I need to reach out to. Here's how I want to communicate. What do you think about that? Like just different ways to get even more clear with not your own brain, but with people that you trust to give you counsel. And if you don't have that in your life, that's so powerful and so important. I highly suggest coaching, counsel, just people that you can lean into for for those moments when you just need to, have that perspective so you can keep living life full out. Hey, really quick, I want to interrupt the podcast for just a minute to tell you about one of my favorite supplements for hair, skin, nails, digestive, and gut health. And that is Snap Supplements Super Greens with collagen. Now, if you're following me on social media, you've probably seen me post about this a bunch because honestly, this product tastes amazing and it's jam-packed with nutrients, like I said, to support healthy hair, skin, and nails. It helps support detoxification, a healthy immune system, and there's even probiotics in there for a healthy gut. It's non-GMO, no sugar added, soy-free, grass-fed collagen, and every scoop is going to give you 7 grams of protein. And this is why I love it, because it's not like a protein shake. It's just a scoop of powder. It tastes amazing. I put it in water, or if I want more hydration, I'll put it in coconut water and mix it up. And it's like having a nice, refreshing beverage that's packed with a bunch of super greens and protein. So what I'm super excited about is that for listening to the podcast, you'll get this discount here, nowhere else, but for listening to the podcast. You can save 25% off on all your Snap supplement purchases, including the Super Greens with collagen. And you do that by using code Lunden25 at checkout. That's LUNDEN 25. LUNDEN 25 to get 25% off at checkout. You can shop on snapsupplements.com or you can shop on my website, lifelikelondon.com/supplements. And you'll see there's already an additional 10% taken off. But you, because you're a podcast listener, you're going to get 25% off when you use the code Lunden25 at checkout. LUNDEN 25 at checkout to get your Snap Supplements, Super Greens, and collagen, and all your Snap supplements for 25% off. Now, let's get back to the show. That helps a lot with clarity with me, talking it out with people that I know will give great questions, great perspectives, and then who I know will give their opinion if I ask for it or when I ask for it, if I want to. But that won't be their first inclination, right? Their first inclination is going to help me gain that perspective, gain that wisdom, look maybe in areas and avenues, asking questions that just, promote different strands of thought. That's really helpful. So continuously seeking that clarity through counsel and through coaching is just another great way that I feel like I'm energetically clearing the filter, getting that clarity and just like clearing out some of that junk there. And then another tip on clarity when it comes to reaching your goals. So we have 1, 2, 3. This is number 4. Clarity in processes. So I have my podcast. I'm the director of a company here in Utah. I coach my clients one-on-one. We're building NABA, the community, and there's a lot happening. And so having good processes that like work and that you work is important. And going back and seeking clarity within those systems and processes are just like, I don't know if it's processes or processes. And as I'm saying it right now, I'm not really sure, but you know what I'm talking about. Feel free to send me a message or in the DMs on Instagram if you, off the top of my head right now in this moment, I can't think of how to say it. Probably both. It's probably like tomato, systems and processes. But it's very helpful to have these processes and processes in place, both and, because to manage a lot of things, right? It's like, getting in a good habit of working out is just as good as getting in a habit of writing things down and documenting them in a way that you remember conversations and dialogue that you might have, especially if you're working with different clients or coaching or just meeting new people. It's like we are taking in a lot of information, and it's great to have a very streamlined way to do that. Even in communicating with teams, or like with my podcast, we use a Trello board and we have this whole process of a calendar. And when I upload a podcast episode, and then when my assistant does all the things to help me get that uploaded and scheduled and on time. And if we have a guest, there's just like a lot of moving parts, right? So like that's important and powerful. And if we're going to take on what we want to take on, there needs to be a flow and a pattern that quite frankly is like a every day, let's call it mundane pattern, to do precisely the opposite, to combat the mundane, right? To go after the miracles in life and to like squeeze all the juice out of it. We have to do the everyday like things, those systems and processes and those steps and spreadsheets and all of those types of things. So I put here like clarity in the processes of the way things flow and the way that you do them and how, and like when's your workout and when's your time for yourself and when's your work time and when, are you making sure you're getting in rest and time for yourself and fun and like all of that kind of the process of the day to day. Also in the calendars, like how are you scheduling things and are you getting clear week by week in what's happening in your week, day by day, month by month? All of the above, I would suggest, right? Like just being able to know what's happening and then consulting your core values, figuring out how you want to show up, doing, moving any moving parts around in order to make things, better. And then spreadsheets too. I have a lot of spreadsheets that I use as we're building this community, as I'm the director of a company. There's just a lot of conversations and things that happen that we have to sit down and refine and get clear and kind of move people around in terms of, just move spreadsheet cells around, add different things. Even like in finances, I have spreadsheets in terms of like things I want to pay off or save for. And it's one thing if you make something and you get excited, like I said, setting a goal and then you just go after it and you make this spreadsheet and you set this goal and it's, you want to save for this or you want to, I don't know, just do anything. It's like, and then we actually have to sit down with the calendar and the spreadsheet and do the thing and tally it up and save the money or pay off the bill or, contact the people that we need to contact that's in our spreadsheet and all the details, right? All of that needs continuous seeking of clarity. And that's why things like counsel are important because it's not easy all the time. We don't always want to do it, right? That's why getting clear on your values and getting motivated and charged up by those values and like, who do I want to be? And what does this look like? That makes doing the thing, even when it's not fun, a lot better when you know that who you want to become in the process and you're fueled by the becoming in the process. So yeah, clarity and all the nitty gritty, right? And then another thing that's great to get clear on is like our feelings, like in terms of the feeling that we're feeling as we go throughout our day. Are we feeling stressed? Are we feeling scattered, autopilot, all of that? And I ask myself a lot like, okay, well, am I feeling how I want to feel? And if the answer is no, I know that things like meditation and a lot of other tools, breath work that I do and I coach on really help a lot with getting in that feeling and getting in that space of attraction, of magnetic force, of drawing in more of what we want, right? If we walk around with a bad attitude all day while we're seeking clarity and all this, like we're not going to get more of what we want in terms of our day-to-day life experience. And we're not going to be vibrating at a frequency that's going to allow what is ours and of our highest good to come towards us. And so I put here, #catch yourself in autopilot, because we need to make sure that we don't catch ourselves in autopilot, or that we do, right? And then we celebrate it and we get ourselves back into that very conscious, present state of being where productivity and then also surrender can happen, right? Because when we're going after our goals, there's a lot of stuff. And there's actually another book I love. It's called Who, Not How. So it's like sometimes we get so caught up in the how and how we're going to do it, right? But there's a lot of potential in who we might meet and in that who, find the how and how they can help us and how we can integrate and all of that. But that's a really, awesome book there too. I love that book. But mainly, like I said, this book, High Performance Habits, and all of the habits that Brendan Burchard talks about are so great, but specifically the clarity piece, continuously seeking clarity, and clarity on that feeling oftentimes can attract somebody in a situation that can move and manipulate or help you in a way that can get you to your goal in those moments where how just seems like, oh, okay, a lot, So quick recap of those points that we talked about. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So setting a goal and sitting with it, practicing that, trying that. Continuously seeking clarity on who you want to be. Remember, this is the generating of the core values and who you want to be and how you want to show up. And then it's also the clarity coming back to our values and being like, okay, how is this showing up? how am I being? Is this like lining up to how I said? And like, how can I, blossom even more flowers of these core values of like, this is what it looks like in real life. Seeking counsel, asking for that perspective, getting people that can listen and ask really good questions. Clarity in all of the nitty-gritty details, like the processes, the calendars, the spreadsheets, who does what and how, revisiting that regularly, reminding yourself to revisit that regularly, finding what works for you, right? If it's a digital thing, if it's a paper thing. I like both. And when you're doing things online and communicating with other people and collaborating on things, online things just work better. But for myself, sometimes I like to have written stuff, right, to get clear. So that's helpful. And then also getting yourself in the right feeling, clarity from meditation and breath work, and just recalibrating a little bit that feeling that we want to feel. That helps so much with getting clear. It's just so hard to decide who you want to be and like, get all the nitty-gritty details and all of that if you're feeling frazzled and scattered and not in a space to have a tool belt of some resources that can support you in that process. So that's what I do in my coaching. And I offer that, one-on-one, and also other resources that you can get to help with a lot of that. All right, let's find my center so then we can start to add who we want to be and what that looks like in real life, and then continue to get clear on that. I guess really quickly, I'll read some of the questions that are in this book as we close. These are the questions that he puts in the book. They are, which things are you absolutely clear about that help you perform better than your peers? What do you focus on to stay clear about what matters most? What aren't you clear about, and how does that affect your performance? What do you do when you're feeling uncertain or undirected? If you had to explain to someone you are mentoring what it is that makes you successful, what would you say? What else do you know about yourself beyond your values and strengths and plans that makes you successful? So yeah, chunked it down clarity, and then chunked up clarity are very helpful. The nitty-gritty details of what that looks like in real life and all those systems and processes and the details, but then also the chunked up clarity of like who you want to be, right? What does that mean? What ripple are you going to make? And going after that, right? Reminding ourselves in terms of that feeling of like, no, this matters. Like it's hard now, but it matters. How can I get clear? Recharge that feeling. And then dive into some of those, like administrative tasks and things that we don't want to do, like revisit our goal list, like look at our calendars, look at the things, do the things, repeat the things, right? It's not always hunky-dory when we're processing goals and reaching things and climbing mountains and being, just being and reaching even more of our full potential. We just need to keep on climbing that mountain. So hopefully these tips for clarity are helpful. Grab that book, High Performance Habits. I'll link it in the description or the show notes, wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Thank you for listening. And if you had any aha moments from this episode, I love hearing them. So feel free to share them with me on Instagram. It's probably the best way. You can DM me. I'm at LifeLikeLunden, LifeLikeLunden on Instagram. You can just shoot me a DM and tell me what spoke to you or stood out the most, what you're getting clear on, how you stay clear. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you at the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.